does not want to interrupt. Then Quetzal flies his beam ship back to Earth and over the Atlantic, to then descend into the depths of the sea. Then we hover over the spongy sea bottom and Quetzal moves the beam ship, which indeed has now become a diving ship, slowly along. The beam ship glows externally and radiating brilliance, and lights up the pitch-black darkness in a broad circumference. Not much is said thereby, because I devote my entire attention to everything I can see during 1 full hour in the deep sea. Thereafter, this also applies for the deep-sea dive in the Pacific, which, however, only lasts 25 minutes. In regard to the living things, there is not exactly much to see in the deepest depths, because creatures appear only in isolation, in small form, whereby, for me, however, they are exotic, as are also those in the higher areas of the water. Many of these living things are self-luminous, in greenish or whitish light. I could only observe bigger life forms extremely sporadically, each and every one of which is of a strange form, those seen by me, at any rate. Still more seldom, gigantic animals emerge out of the darkness of the deep sea, as, for example, whitish and reddish as well as brownish giant squid and dark grey or black snake-shaped creatures, which I estimate to be 15 to 20 meters long and 4 to 5 meters in diameter. Also, in 3 different locations, 3 single gigantic forms of life emerge, which I initially designate as deep-sea whales. However, Quetzal will instruct me that it deals with so-called sleeping sharks, the existence of which is not yet known to terrestrial humans. The smallest of the 3 I estimate to be some 10 meters long, while the 2 others are some 2 to 3 meters longer. But there are, among many other very interesting things, also the black chimneys, aka black smokers, of which Quetzal had once spoken, and he said that they are the essential origin of the later forms of life on the earth, in water, air and land, along with inclusions from outer space through comets, meteors and asteroids. In these black chimneys, from which pitch-black swathes, which are impregnated with sulfur and various materials, rise up, emerged early branches of bacteria which, as they rose out of the chimneys, were released and began the evolutionary work of life. But that, says Quetzal, is all still unknown to the terrestrial scientists. What is still interesting with this observation of the black chimneys is the fact that in their nearer and further surroundings, swarms of enormous numbers of large and snow-white creatures, which I simply designate as giant or oversized scampi aka shrimp/prawns, bustle about on the sulphurous rocks or on the other steep rocks. Leaving the deep sea and after a few minutes back again in my office, it is precisely 3:17 a.m. as I look at the clock. Billy says, "I would like to thank you very much for everything, my friend. My son, the whole thing was an exceptionally special experience for me, for which many scientists would envy me. Quetzal says it was a special honor and a joy for me to be allowed to fulfill your long-cherished wish. Billy says I am honored by that, but you still must be sure of my gratitude. May I now ask you a few things? You know, I only go to bed around the early morning, and thus, if you still have time." Quetzal says for the next 4 days, I have my free time, therefore, you may heedlessly take 1 or 2 hours from me, and thus, you can raise your questions. Billy says some time ago, you told me what you call your Pleiadian language, as well as the intercosmic language and the language of the people, to whom Manara belongs. You mentioned specific names, but they have all escaped me again. Please mention them to me again. Quetzal says the Pleiadian language, we call Sarut, the intercosmic language, we designate as Kosan, and the language of the people, to whom Manara belongs, we call Genan or Daron language. Billy says exactly, those were the names of the languages. Thank you. Before the end of the 70s, there was talk with you, Semyaza, and Patar about the fact that in almost 1,000 years, a great danger from space will threaten the Earth. If I remember everything correctly, You spoke of a large meteor or asteroid or of a comet. Yet also in this respect, I am no longer familiar with everything, which is why I would be grateful to you if you could give me some details about this danger again. Afterward, I was asked about this by several people, because some years ago, I gave answers to questions which you had explained to me. Now, in relation to this, questions have even arisen recently. At that time, there was also talk of the fact that also in about 1,000 years, the magnetic pole of the Earth would be shifted southward from the north in such a way that it would then be located in the area of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Quetzal says that is correct. The magnetic North Pole and with it, of course, also the South Pole is shifting from the north to the south in the direction specified by you. And the magnetic North Pole must already be searched for in the area of Greenland. This is due to the Earth's internal shifts and displacements of the most diverse inner planetary layers, as well as powerful variations in the Earth's innermost hot, liquid mass, through which the actual geomagnetism is produced. Billy says the inner planetary layers, this belongs to the field of the geologists who deal with earthly tectonics, respectively with geotectonics, right? This is a branch of science of geology, which deals with the construction of the Earth's crust, the storage conditions of the rock strata and other layers of the Earth, their variations over the course of time of geologic history, as well as with the causes that trigger such storage variations, if I still correctly remember what I learned in school. Quetzal says your memory is as good as ever. Your statement corresponds to the truth. But concerning your first question, our talk was about an asteroid. If the conditions relating to the orbit of the asteroid change, then in nearly 1,000 years, more exactly said, in exactly 893 years, in mid-March of the year 2880, this could come very close to the Earth or even endanger it through an impact or through our too close flyby. In any case, this asteroid, which was already discovered by terrestrial astronomers in 1950 and which received the designation 1950D, will at least come in very dangerous proximity to the Earth, namely within the orbit of the Moon, at a distance to Earth of about 260,000 to 300,000 kilometers. However, if changes in the course of the asteroid should arise, which can always be a probability due to cosmic as well as solar planetary influences, etc., then a closer, very close, or even a more distant flyby is possible, whereby even the Moon could, perhaps, enter into the path of the asteroid. The possibilities are always very many, through which the courses of meteors, comets, asteroids, wandering planets, and clouds of energy, as well as clouds of matter, etc. can be changed in their journey or in their drifting through space. However, by the year 2880, the technological capabilities developed by the Earth people will be able to counteract the threatening catastrophe, namely in the form that the asteroid, which is a little more than 1,000 meters in diameter, can be forced away from its Earth-endangering course. Billy says yes, that is the information that you gave to me. But now, to something else over and over again, heinous ones appear, claiming that they have had contacts with you or else with some extraterrestrials and that they would have been promised that the extraterrestrials would bring salvation to the Earth and to the Earth people. As a rule, these heinous ones who make such assertions are some sect bosses or delusional believers and lunatics of other natures, who lie their heads off and promise their believers and followers that the extraterrestrials will come with spaceships and save all of those or at least a part of those, who believe in the hypocritical horror stories of the bringing of salvation through extraterrestrials, and will take them to a nicer, more peaceful, and better planet in safety. The heinous ones who invent and maintain such stories partly due to pure addiction to profit, delusional faith, confusion, or craziness try to convey to their followers who are enslaved to them and to their believers that the extraterrestrials would allegedly take their own responsibility from them and send them rescue. Quetzal says that is well known to us. All evil means are right to these liars, swindlers, and deceivers, in order to bind those who are enslaved to them and their believers to themselves. But the truth is that neither we nor any